Okay, so last time up to this point we found that obviously Fred and his friends were seeing the plane that crashed in the Amazon jungle. From there they went exploring, they found a den, they made a raft and went down the river. They found a forbidden city, a hidden city, where they met this explorer who was a gentleman who was there, living there, and he showed them how to catch tarantulas to eat, how to make other catch and hunt other food, so that they were ready to start their trek to go obviously off to make their way back home eventually. So our next chapter is called Stuck in the Mud. They woke to rains so heavy that Fred could barely see his own hand when he held it out in front of him. The explorer had left fresh fish outside their doorway, but he was nowhere to be seen. There was only the white thundering smoke of the rain. It filtered through the roof and dropped on their faces. They crouched, bleak, waiting for it to stop. It did not. They grew steadily wetter. "Let's go and hide the statues." "I'll hide under the statues," said Fred. "We can take the fish." They pelted across the square towards the far end, where the four vast statues stood. Bakka let out a snuffling, mewling sound as Leela ran with him, her feet sliding in the mud. Behind the statues, up against the wall, was a slight overhang, enough to shelter under. They crouched, all four in line, watching the sky and scaling the fish. Fred half expected the explorer to be there too, keeping dry, but there was no trace of him. Fred threw a stone out into the downpour and watched it disappear into the wall of water. "Shall we do something?" said Leela. She offered Bakka a handful of leaves from her pocket. Bakka turned away and licked his damp fur. "Let's go looking for food, or we could play something." Fred put the fish he was scaling down. "Play what?" He was glad to stop working. The rain made the fish slippery. His hands were covered in nicks, and his fingernails were full of fish scales. His fingers, he saw, were callous now, tougher than the past days. "What game?" said Con. She sounded suspicious. "I only know bridge, and we don't have any cards." "Bridge?" asked Leela. Con looked defensive. "We didn't play much at school, or at least sometimes the others did, but I'm not usually—" Her voice trailed off. I don't really want to. Aren't games for babies?" "Do you know Stuck in the Mud?" asked Fred. "It's like tag, only if you get touched, you freeze until someone comes and crawls under your legs to set you free." Out in the rain, Con scratched a mosquito bite. "We can't really get that much wetter," said Fred, gesturing to his jersey. It was dripping onto the fish now. "All right," Con jumped to her feet. "Let's go." "You're it," said Leela to Con. It wasn't like any game of tag Fred had played before. It was more like swimming than running. They darted in and out of statues, slipping on the wet stone. The mud churned under their shoes and spattered all the way up to their waist. Rain got in their eyes and ears and mouths and hammered down on their hands as they were trying to lunge at each other. Con ran awkwardly, with her heels hitting against her bottom, but her face was vivid with excitement. "I didn't expect this game," said Con, panting, "to be so literal. I like it." They ran outwards towards the trees of the jungle. Fred scrambled up 2 lianas to escape pursuit, one in each hand and his knees around both for balance, until Con lifted Max in her arms and he touched Fred's ankles with the tips of his fingers. "You're stuck," Max called. The rain hammered on his upturned face and slicked his eyebrows into shape. Con put Max down. She doubled over. "Wait, Fred, Leela, I think I might be dying." "What?" Leela skidded to a halt, throwing up an arc of mud. "The side of me is burning. It's burning." "Like fire?" "Yes." "And it's hard to breathe?" "Yes." "That's just a stitch." "What?" "How do you know what a stitch is?" asked Max. That's so silly." "Shh, Max," said Leela. She turned, calming Con's deep purple blush with her businesslike nod. "It's just what happens when you run. The best thing you can do is take a fat branch in each hand and make a really strong fist around them." "Right, thank you." "Does that work?" Fred asked. "I've never heard of it." "Yes, it definitely works." Con ran into the rain to find 2 sticks, and Leela whispered, "I don't know actually. I think I just made it up, but it might, if you believe it will." That counts for something. Con reappeared, clutching a stick in each hand, her face pink with the effort of making a fist, straining as if she were laying an egg. She thumped Fred on the shoulder. "You're it!" If ever there is a chance to play tag in a jungle in a tropical storm, it was a chance worth taking. Years later, it would shine for Fred like a gold coin he carried with him. It was the last day of light before the days tore open. Okay, I'm going to leave it there for today. So our next chapter is Max. So obviously, if you listen tomorrow, you'll be able to find out what happens next.